But I thought I'd begin by asking you about the Anglican theologian N.T. Wright. Now, this is a revered figure, particularly in some of the Christian apologetic circles. He wrote an important book on the resurrection of Jesus. And yet recently, he's made a couple of controversial statements that, to be honest, kind of surprised me. One of them was in a discussion on a podcast about abortion. He goes, well, this would not be ideal, but if you do have rape or incest or the health of the mother is gravely endangered, this might actually be a reasonable or a viable option. And that by itself startled me. And then literally a day later, in fact, I think this morning, I see that he made a comment to the effect that, well, it's kind of a good idea to believe in the bodily resurrection of Jesus, but he goes, I've got some theologian friends who don't, and I'm very reluctant to say, like, they're not a Christian. So the implication here appears to be that it is somehow optional for Christians to believe in the bodily resurrection. Any thoughts about N.T. Wright? I think I'm raising it because it's part of course, the wider phenomenon we're about to discuss. Have you seen these reactions, and what were your thoughts about them?
Yes, I did see his comments on abortion, and they're deeply troubling. And I did catch wind this morning of his comments on the resurrection and whether or not you can deny the bodily resurrection of Christ and still be considered a Christian. That was also deeply troubling. What we have here, Dinesh, is a compromise on two major issues of Christianity, one on ethics and one on essentially what we could call proper doctrine proper, the resurrection of Christ. Paul in 1 Corinthians 15 dedicated a whole chapter of that epistle encouraging first century believers to hold fast to belief in the bodily resurrection, not only of themselves, but of Christ as well. And so what we're seeing here, something actually we've seen happen in quite a few other cases of late, which is otherwise orthodox and arguably conservative theologians, as they're getting older, they're not finishing the race well. That's why the Bible encourages us so strongly to finish well.
And I mean, to be clear, it's not that N.T. Wright is saying that he does not believe in the bodily resurrection, but I think it's almost like an issue of collegiality, that where these guys kind of go weak is they feel like, well, my friend thinks this, and he's been a theologian when we've been kind of in the same department or maybe in the same circles for so many years, and therefore it is out of the spirit of generosity that I'm kind of going to give him a pass on this one. But I mean, it's almost like that is the insidious, quote, decency that is causing people to abandon. I mean, again, with the resurrection, we're not talking about a peripheral issue of doctrine. We're talking about something absolutely central, aren't we?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And this is what we have to hold fast to as Christians, is that we do not develop our ethics nor our doctrine off of people's experiences in the case of the abortion, or off of people's opinions or our friendships in the case of these theologians he's talking about. We hold fast to the inspired and inerrant word of God because of what it says, and we don't change it because of feelings or friendships.